Hello, hello. Hi, everybody. Sorry we're a couple minutes late. We're going to have a special guest from this very location, on location in the next room. But I wanted to do a little introduction to today. So, hi, everybody. So good to see you. We'll do some greetings in a little while. But just for the replay crew, anybody watching on the replay, thank you very much for watching. And thanks to everyone that's in the chat. And it's been quite a weekend for Duncan and I. Yesterday morning, we were planning on doing some things with. Duncan was going to talk about hypnosis and cult mind control, which he still most likely will touch on. But we like to keep things. This is morning musings, right? And we like to keep things, kind of fresh and relevant and just relatable to not only what's going on in our lives, but also to interact with you all, whether it's in the chat or in the comments later. So, yesterday I was in StreamYard and helping Kelly with her. Well, not really helping her. She doesn't need my help. She does fantastic. But she did kind of a recap of some of the highlights of the week with different clips of some of the videos that were done by some of the SPTV creators. And there was some themes going on. There was a lot of talk about accountability on the parents' part, as far as in Scientology parents, accountability as far as the creators in SPTV, and also a little bit of understand. I gained some understanding about like what all this is, because you hear a lot of phrases such as infighting, and Kelly said something that really struck me. She said, in what? We're not in anything. There's no infighting. And she always says the word out with a period. And she even has merch that says out, period. And yeah, we're not in, we're out. We're out of cults, out of abusive relationships, out of corporate situations that we're out of high control groups, we're out. Right. And I'm coming out. So we're out. We're on the internets. We're in the interwebs. And there's really no set rules. And that's something that I was thinking about overnight. And then when Duncan came to me with his notes about hypnosis, he said something that was like, that really struck me. Again, I keep saying struck me. It was like, just gave me food for thought. And there was this concept of power distance. And the more he'll explain it as much more eloquently than me. But as he was talking, I was like, this could really apply to what this whole big experiment that we're doing in this SPTV, universe, right? And like Kelly said, it's a genre. It's just a group of creators doing their thing, and you make friendships, you forge relationships, and there's bound to be some drama. It's the internet, and I don't feed on it. I don't thrive on it, but I recognize that it's a thing. It's something that probably can't be avoided, but I'm not going to shut up. I'm not going to soften my message, and I'm not going to follow anybody else's rules. And I guess, that might not be popular with some people, but that's okay, because I'm not in anything. I'm not in anything. So without further ado, I want to bring in my better half, my smarter half, my more organized half. And yes, here he is, guys. The one and only Duncan Honig is now free as an eagle. There he is. Hi, sweetie.
Hello. Good morning, everybody. This is my debut on actually doing a live stream, not sitting next to Marilyn in front of her computer. She helped me set up my little office here and convert it into a studio. So I'm in the game, and this is going to be very cool and going to be fun. And,
watch out, everybody. Here he comes.
So
the eagle has landed.
He's trying to take off. I'm trying to get off the ground right now.
Oh, love it's watching on your channel.
Awesome. Hey, thank you. Yeah, I was going to say thank you, everybody that subscribed and been encouraging it in this effort, because I've been in minimal trepidation because I've seen Marilyn make a success of it so far. So I'm very pleased to have the opportunity to join in and kind of cover my view of things a little bit, not take over on her and have her send me packing.
That's because people like you better. That's why.
Oh, no. You're doing quite well. I keep telling Marilyn, it's like, be happy to slow, steady growth is better than, something explosive, because most companies that balloon up too fast crash and burn. So slow, steady is usually the safest route to take. And she's got loyal followers and good friends on here, which is kind of what I hope to
Yes,
do
very
and
good
share. And
friends.
so this has been a really educational experience, because I have no experience having done anything like this before. So it's a growth experience as well as a lot of fun. And it's a cool sharing platform because we all have ideas and thoughts and different subjects that interest us. So my thought is, like we were talking about doing what we're doing today. And I know I'm probably over talking my limit, but I'll go on for another 30 seconds.
I just want to put up your banner, honey. Have people
Okay,
subscribe to you. So head on
sure.
over to @freeasaneagle, just like that, all one word. And you can subscribe, like over there, and even watch from there if you like. That would be great.
Yeah,
Or
I've
open
put up a
another
few
tab.
little videos and just things to kind of put some content out there. So I realized I couldn't put up still pictures, although I take a lot of pictures outdoors of nature scenes, and a few little videos here and there. So I put a few up of Austin and the Midnight 30 band. I put up a few of my waterfall pictures that I videoed, and a few skiing ones I just did the other day just for fun as an experiment. So those things are just for entertainment. And I put a little intro video, but that'll become obsolete shortly, hopefully. But yeah, I just want to thank everybody that already subscribed. I really appreciate it. I want to see where we go with this. And so, yeah, I was going to say too about our subject.
Yes.
Marilyn did 3 streams the other day, and more or less in one day was a lot. And I listened to all of them while I was doing various things around the house. And then at one point, I'm like, for some reason, the term hypnosis kept popping up. I'm like, that's an interesting subject. So I started digging into that a little bit with the intent of doing that. But then this morning, something changed, and I had this brainstorm while I was going over my notes. And I thought of the power distance thing Marilyn mentioned, and then how intimidation is a big part of cult mind control. So what we're doing is sort of under the heading of cult mind control, and there's their playbook. I was going to sort of title this in my head, like Cult Mind Control, the playbook. And then there's all these different elements, of which intimidation is a major one. Hypnosis is a subtle but very powerful one. And the power distance, that term, I don't know, hon, if you want me to get into this, or you want to do some intro stuff
No,
first. Okay,
go
so
right ahead.
I'll take a few minutes and plunge right in. Like power distance, I originally became aware of this by reading a book that actually Haley was assigned to read when she was like in high school, maybe, called Outliers by Malcolm Gladwell. And I read that book. I'm like, damn, this is really good stuff. It's very educational for anybody, not just kids. And because it's not a kid's book. And Malcolm Gladwell has a run of books, which I think I bought all of because he was so interesting. And he discussed, among examples, like power distance. I'll read the quick definition here. It says, power distance is one of Hofstede's 5 cultural dimensions. And I haven't researched that. I don't know anything more about that than that. But it says some cultures rank high in power distance, which means the order of inequality and hierarchy is well defined, and one's place in society is known and accepted. In such a society, individuals are deferential to their leaders and have a high regard for them. In other words, they are cultures with very strict power hierarchies, and the people at the bottom know and accept their place. Bam. So that just exploded to me as a huge factor in not only, cults, pretty much any cult, but other organizations. And the example that Malcolm Gladwell gave was a fascinating one. Is like the FAA keeps track of all the accidents, aircraft accidents and things. And at one point, they noticed that Korean Airlines, for some reason, had this anomalously high level of accidents. And it kept happening for years. And they were like, what's wrong with Korean Air? It's not the planes. It doesn't appear to be the people. They're well trained. And he ended up doing this analysis and realized that in Korea, they have a very high power distance, which means the people on top of the pyramid are so powerful and everybody else is so intimidated that they would be on a flight someplace and something would start going wrong or the pilot would be falling asleep. And the co pilot was so used to deferring in this culture that literally he would be afraid to say anything. And there was cases in which the pilot had fallen asleep or was drunk or out of control or something was going wrong. And then the co-pilot would be like, excuse me, sir, excuse me. Yeah, it appears we're losing altitude like really, really fast and maybe something's wrong. But he would be so timid and afraid the guy would just ignore him. It's like, well, who are you? You're just the co-pilot, you're nobody. So the guy was just auguring into the ground at 900 miles an hour. And the co-pilot would be afraid to say anything. He didn't want to disturb the guy. So when he finally started to speak up and say, hey, I think we're in some serious trouble, it's too late, blam. So they were having these inexplicable crashes. And it turns out this whole power distance thing was like a big part of it. So that's kind of like in a cult. Hon, am I overrunning my limit here?
No, I'm
so
into it.
I mean, I got fired up about this. I found it really
interesting. Go for it.
So I came up with this hypothesis.
You don't have a limit. We just started.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, I'm used to not want to take over your channel. Now I'm on mine. So
yeah, you're on yours. You're my guest. This is Ask an Apostate instead of asking SB, because you are an official apostate. So this is Ask an Apostate.
Okay. So I created this hypothesis. It's all popped into my head. I'm like, this whole power distance thing takes a while to build into being, but I created this little chart. I'm going to hold it up in the hope that it's actually clear enough to be visible.
Yeah, I see it.
Is that not mirrored? Can that be seen? Okay.
I see it. It's not mirrored. No.
Good. Okay. So my hypothesis was this, and it kind of goes along with the Malcolm Gladwell mentality, is like if you took 50 people and put them all in a room and none of them know each other, none of them have ever met, so that there's no hierarchy, nothing, no structure has been put together yet. And you leave those people in that room for an hour. After an hour, you're going to have a room full of people that started out as total equals. They've never met or anything. But some of the people in there are going to be business executives. Some are doctors. Some are like salesmen. Some of them are just quiet librarian type people that aren't very assertive. And what's going to happen over time is people are going to start exerting control over others. Like a salesman will start asking people a bunch of questions that the obvious answer is yes, and subtly and without even meaning to probably draw a bunch of people in. And pretty soon he's rising up in the hierarchy. You notice I got this, the very bottom line is total equality. Like everybody's just walked into this room. Nobody really knows what the agenda is. And an hour later, number two means there's some people in the room that have risen a little higher than others. And then a couple hours in, you're going to see that third level. And then eventually what happens is the people that want power and that are more assertive and more aggressive are going to rise to the top. So all of a sudden, and notice on one side about power distance, like power distance is what's happening between the people at the bottom of the hierarchy and the top dog eventually that's going to come out of this whole thing. So over time, there's going to be a stratification. So some people are going to rise up in terms of power. They're going to align themselves with people that might stay at level 3 and others that stay at level 2. And then there's going to be a bunch of people at the bottom, which obviously the bottom of a pyramid is very big and the top is very tiny. There's only a few people at the top, and the masses are at the bottom. So anyway, so that illustration shows a natural progression that happens in any community, any company, and especially in cults, because cults use tactics to gain power. So this process takes place naturally, but it involves the use of a lot of different tactics that come into play. So in a minute, I want to jump over to hypnosis intimidation. But before I do that, why don't we check in with the chat and see what kind of comments we're getting?
Absolutely. That was great, honey. Thank you. Yeah, you came up with that yourself. And I was like, that's genius. And it really makes me think of some of the things that I've been musing over. And this idea of even, where we're at right now in this community with SPTV is, are we in something? I'd agree with Kelly that we're not. And I think that unfortunately, there was a bit of a a representation of like kind of this is what we're in. This is SPTV. These are the rules. This is how to get along. This is, this is like the status quo. And when things started happening and some people started having questions, it was like, oh no, don't ask questions, and I think that's a really good analogy that you gave with the pilots and being like, oh, excuse me, what's, we're crashing into a building, like this isn't going in a great direction, or I have a question or whatever, and not being able to ask questions. And I like how you said that we're all equal, we're all human, we're all, all that. And then some people, kind of rise over others, and some people have more experience. Some people have more experience on YouTube. Some people have more experience in Scientology. Some people had higher ranks Scientology. And I think that even having it kind of and I was talking to you about this today, hun, and I think I'm going to do my next morning musings about documentaries, about especially cult documentaries, is that the way, there is a little bit of a dark side to it, because it's a production, right? It's let's put our best foot forward, let's get the best footage. And a lot of times people either get frozen out, or they get in some cases, like there was one documentary where someone's saying that they weren't part of the promotional materials because they believe that they were discriminated by their age and by their appearance. And so you have all those things where it's like, this is what we want you to know, this is what we want you to do, this is what we want you to say, this is who we want to promote. And I'm not about that. I'm not about wanting to just go with the flow, right? That's how I got in a cult. That's how I got in a cult. And I'm not saying SPDV is a cult, but these type of groups can become a little bit culty, So I like how you framed it in ways that it can be relatable in other walks, other things in your life. Like Joel had said, this is also true in juries. I could see that happen. And you've got the what do they call the guy, the steward or whatever?
Yeah, there's somebody that sort of becomes in charge of the jury. Is that not true? Like an actual juror? I forget the name of that
Yeah, the
too.
head. Yeah, what is that called, guys? I can't even believe it. I can't even believe I don't remember. But yeah. Hi everybody. I was popping up greetings as we went along, but just something funny. I want to pay homage to the dirty stay ups. We got Tony. Hi, Tony. Coming in. Moves for. Oh, whoa. One of them's a little droopy, creepy. Good to see you. So I'm sorry. You know me. On a serious note, what were you gonna say
Well,
next?
foreman, Joel put it in. Yeah, I've been on the jury
Foreman,
once when I went
yes.
through a week-long trial, but I couldn't
Yeah.
remember. Yeah, so you have a
Foreman.
foreman of the
Yeah,
jury. Obviously, he's going to have a
that's
little
right.
bit of sway.
Jury foreman. Thank you
Hopefully,
very
they
much.
represent the
Yeah.
majority.
Oh, I could see you being the foreman on 3 juries, been foreman on all.
Wow.
I
Well,
could
that's
see
pretty
that.
cool. You're smart. You know
Yeah.
what you're talking about.
Yeah. So yeah, those were just some of my thoughts about this big crazy experiment that we're doing here. And I don't have any experience on YouTube. Obviously I have experience in groups, but I I talk about my nonprofit situation, and I purposely didn't ask you, honey, my husband or my daughter or anyone that I was close to be on it, because I really do want to have it be a level playing field, and I want it to hear all different thoughts and all different views, and not have anybody feel intimidated. And I know you were mentioning that earlier about some of the tactics and the intimidation, and the little sheet that you gave me was really good, because those are some of the tactics. And like you said about hypnosis, as you go on with that, just pause and let me throw in a couple things, but I'm gonna give you the steering wheel here.
Okay, yeah, I'll hit the hypnosis thing first.
Okay.
Yeah, I was going to say, I found this funny little hack. I was having problems with glary glasses, and I ordered special anti-glare glasses from Amazon. They showed up. I put them on. Absolutely no difference. Then I'm like, you know what? I'll just Google this. and there was some girl on Zoom saying, on a Zoom type thing, saying, "Hey, all you got to do is make sure the plane of the glasses lenses is not exactly across from your computer screen." So the
Yeah.
simplest possible tweak was just to kick the earpieces up on the glasses, and now they're not glary because unless I
Yeah.
lift up like this, then they get glary. But
Real,
you just
real
tilt
quick,
them.
real
So
quick. Can we do a little bit of a sound check? Is anyone hearing Duncan kind of, or is that me? Like when you say like something with an S, it's very sharp. I
like,
don't know if it's my, yeah. I don't know if it's my headphones or if it's the noise cancellation thing. What do you
yeah,
think,
I put
guys?
a noise. I put all the goodies in there on the audio settings in the hope I wouldn't sound
Yeah,
very
it's just
creepy.
very, yeah, it's just very, ugh,
Yeah, I don't know how
I'm
I.
not,
Well, what if I talk quieter like this? Is that better? Am I
yeah,
still
just
audible?
oh, you're totally audible. I just don't know if
Yeah.
it's, yeah, a bit. Okay. Maybe try, if you go into settings, sorry, housekeeping, guys, housekeeping.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, I'm
Go
at
into
risk.
settings, audio. Yeah. Maybe, maybe take off those, the noise cancellation and the echo cancellation. Maybe that's what that is. Just a very sharp sound.
Okay. Oh, settings. Okay. I'm afraid of doing anything that might mess everything all up here.
Right.
However, I'll take the risk. Speaker default headphones. I put headphones in. Echo cancellation. Knock that out. Reduce background noise. Should I take that out or leave it?
Take it out and see what happens.
Okay. So this is just straight on. Mic volume. Is it good?
Yeah, do the mic volume up. Turn the mic volume
Up
up.
a little bit.
All the way up.
All the way up.
Because now I can't hear you. Yeah.
Okay. Now I'm loud, right? This is maxed out. Can you hear
Okay.
me?
How does that sound, guys? Here, talk, honey, so people can see how you
Okay.
sound.
I'm waiting to hear whether it's better or not.
Maybe
Does that sound any better?
put the echo cancellation back on.
Okay, we're echo canceling.
Okay, take it off. Sorry. That's yeah. All right.
Should I do the background noise thing?
Yeah, I think you're good.
Okay.
What do you think, guys? Oh, now you're too low. All right.
I'm too low.
Yep, put it back on. Put those back on.
Okay.
Better the other way. Okay. Sorry, guys.
Yeah, we're ironing out technical difficulties.
All right. Click everything again.
Echo, reduce background.
Okay, that's better. Yep.
Now I got the mic maxed out. Is that good?
How is it working, guys? Okay. You could turn your mic down a tiny bit, maybe.
Okay.
Still too low. How is this now? Okay. All right. Okay. Thank you, Joel.
I mean, I've got the mic a little ways away. I could get it closer.
Oh, I can hear you good. Perfect. Okay. Rhonda says perfect.
Okay. Okay. Perfect.
Now
Just close enough.
we can hear him now. Okay. Let's
Okay,
get into
so we're back on. Pardon the technical difficulties.
Yep.
So where was I? I was going to touch on the hypnosis side of things.
Hypnosis. Yep.
Okay, so yeah, so hypnosis got brought up in some of the streams Marilyn done recently, and I did a little bit of digging, and I'll just read
All right. I'm blurry.
summary definitions. You're blurry. You got to do your
I know.
touch the mic or the camera program. So here's a basic definition
Little better.
from Oxford Dictionary. Okay, we got people saying they can't hear me.
You can barely hear Duncan now? I can hear you really good. Talk again.
Yeah, can anyone else? Sounds like he's in a bathroom. I probably have echoes because this room is mostly sheetrock. I have one little rug, so it's, I'm gonna have to.
Did you put the echo cancellation on again?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. So you might have to just put up with me for now. We'll have to.
Yeah,
with this later.
we'll work out the kinks. We knew that was
this is
gonna
the first shot, so
yeah.
If I'm audible, that's gonna have to do. I'm just looking at the chat here. Okay. From a poet, you're good. Sounds good to me. Miss Sunrise, love it. He's good. Okay. If 3 in a row say it's good, then I'll run with it. He's too loud for me. Wow. Okay. So I guess I don't know if any of it's on anyone else's end or it's just the way StreamYard is putting it out there, but
yeah. Okay.
it sounds like
saying
the majority.
Fine.
The majority is good. So okay. So let me jump over to this hypnosis. This is just a
Do you want me to put up the definition, babe?
Oh, certainly.
Certainly. Okay. 1 second.
Yeah, a little visual is good.
Yeah, let's do that. Oh, hold on one sec. I just got to get the right. You wanted
Okay,
the
I'll start
definition.
reading it. I'll start reading it, and then you can put it up if you get it.
Okay, I think I got it.
Okay.
Here we go.
Okay, there we go. I'll just read it for anyone that's not watching the screen. So hypnosis is the induction of a state of consciousness in which a person apparently loses the power of voluntary action and is highly responsive to suggestion or direction. Its use in therapy, typically to recover suppressed memories or to allow modification of behavior by suggestion, has been revived, but is still controversial. So that's just a basic definition. I've got a couple other notes here. I just highlighted so I wouldn't be delivering endlessly. So then here's a little bit of the etymology. It says the origin of hypnosis is from the Greek word hypnos, which means sleep. Hypnosis, and gnosis typically is the word used for thought, right, in the Greek. So hypnosis is a state of mind that is characterized by focused attention and heightened receptivity for suggestions. It is either established by compliance with instructions or achieved naturally. The critical nature of the mind is bypassed during hypnosis and acceptable suggestions are delivered. It is a trance mental state that is later followed by the giving of suggestions. So that is really telling, because when I started thinking about it, I'm like, well, what do cults tend to do is put people in a receptive state. So, I mean, it's not necessarily some guy standing there twirling a little hypno coin in front of you. It's more like it can be very subtly introduced by repetitive things like chanting. I was reading up the definition of chanting, and I realized that music, rhythm, breathing, there's a lot of things that are used in meditation, because the flip side of hypnosis is meditation, because in fact, it says here, the difference between meditation and hypnosis has to do largely with the expectancies and goals and the relative emphasis on mindfulness, meditation, or suggestion, hypnosis. So meditation is something a lot of people do to get their mind to receive stuff. And typically in a religious or spiritual sense, a lot of times meditation is sort of like, okay, we want to receive from, the powers that be out there by being quiet and just listening, which can have good or bad implications. And then hypnosis emphasizes the idea of suggestibility. So you put somebody in a trance-like state, like meditation is you're putting yourself in a trance-like state to receive information or let your mind just work or talk, kind of allow you to have insights and whatever. And it's not a bad thing necessarily. But hypnosis is more like you give some outsider control. They're putting you in a suggestive state, and that opens your mind up. They sort of bypass your conscious mind, because your conscious mind is put in a sleepy trance-like state, and then they can get right into your head. And I was even thinking of an example that somebody had given where a room full of people, a hypnotist would be doing it for entertainment, right? Because I actually sat through a number of these when I was in college and when I was younger, and you get a hypnotist that would come there and start to work the crowd a little bit. And then there's always people that are more suggestible than others. And I'm one of those people. I'm not that trusting. And especially after cult experiences, I'm not going to give somebody else power over my mind to control it and bypass my conscious mind. That's suicide to me. That's stupid. But there are people that are so trusting and so willing to participate. They're just, willing to take the risk. And especially for entertainment, usually entertainment hypnotists aren't going to try to take control of people and put them in a bad or dangerous situation. But when I was in college, there'd be a guy that would get up on stage and work the crowd, get people talking and hanging out. And then at some point he'd say, everybody close your eyes, and I want you to clench your hands really, really, really tight. This is an example, and hold them there. And then after a few seconds, he'd say, okay, you will not be able to unclench your hands until I tell you you can. And after going through this little routine, he would call all those people whose hands were clenched to come up on the stage. And you get maybe, a dozen people that would walk up there and be up there and standing in front of the guy. And they could not unclench their hands. And then he'd say, okay, all of you that have your hands clenched, you can now unclench your hand. And all of a sudden, poof, they would relax and their hands would be free to move again. And it's just so power, like, oh my God, these people basically gave up control over themselves to somebody else. Look how easily that was done. So that's almost scary to me. But you know, an application of hypnosis, but there's so many other subtle ways it can be used. In fact, I think I'm going to jump over. Are we getting any chat going on?
Yeah, I'm starting a couple things as we go along. It People are saying that I'm like way softer than you, so if you want to put your volume back down on your mic the way it was before
Okay, yeah, I'll dial it back down because this is
I
max.
made you mess with things. Yeah.
Yeah,
Before I made you mess with things.
we're in the
Yeah.
learning curve here. Okay, I'll back
Yeah.
it down a little.
Thanks for bearing with us, guys.
Yeah, this is
Yeah.
the test flight. Okay, so I've backed this down to about
Okay.
2/3.
Okay. That's
Okay,
probably
so
better.
let's take a minute to acknowledge people.
Yeah. So we got
Yeah.
oh, Kelly Copter said, loving your background, Duncan. Very nice. Yeah, I love it.
Oh, yeah, Marilyn helped coach me on how to get this set up nicely.
Oh, you
So
had most of it done.
yeah, well, I love antiques, so I tend to have old furniture that I like and old things. So the only thing that's not an antique up here, I think, is there's a little thing of our little dog Rocky that Austin did on one of those things where you scratch off a background that has colors behind it. So often one corner is a little thing of Rocky. Then there's an eagle. There's a license plate. My brother used to be an avid license plate collector. He'd given me a bunch of them. There's an old beer stein from Germany that was in the family, a nice old oil lamp, an old little antique mirror. And we also used to collect insulators. So there's an old insulator there. So
Yeah.
just a bunch of funky stuff just to make it interesting.
It's very
Um,
you, honey. It's very you. And we
yeah,
got
I don't,
people coming in. We got Farrell, Cheryl.
Cheryl,
I think
Cheryl. Cool.
this is Clearwater Cheryl.
Oh,
She's
cool.
the one that
Yeah.
made me the body thin, and she's been traipsing around, marching around Clearwater Cheryl with AA Ron and Tampa B Man, Barbara, our friend
Oh,
Barbara,
very cool.
and Lori Plays. Yes. So if anyone hasn't seen that new video from Lori Plays, you got to head over to her channel too. If there's any mods in the chat that wouldn't mind putting that up, that would be great. But yeah, so let's see who else we got. Hippie Chick, April Taylor, great to see you. Artsy Tartsy, of course, Joel, Denise Hunter, Creepy Bee, don't leave, Creepy. Someone's saying don't leave us. And
No.
Tony Atkins in Texas. Hello. I'm just scrolling. So
Yeah, I see that Mach. I'll call you Mach
Bev,
1 out of lack of ability to pronounce this long
Mach
name.
1. That's
And I'll
Sophia.
remember that.
Sophia's
Sophia.
from Germany. Yeah.
Oh, very cool.
Yeah. And as I'm sure Sophia knows, your name means honey in German. Honig.
Oh, yeah. I
Yeah.
see love it in there. Some people
Yeah.
dissociate in meditation. Some people go within and connect more
Love it.
deeply. Yeah, I get that. I'm not against meditation. I
Yeah.
think it's
Oh, yeah. No,
it's
it's a tool that can be misused. Right. It's a tool that can be. Oh, yeah. I did star that one. Some people dissociate in meditation. Some people go within and connect more deeply. Yeah. Yeah. Just like, things like breathing and stuff. And power, of suggestion, like NLP, neuro linguistic programming. It can be controversial, and it was used by Nancy, what's her face from Nexium. But
yeah, yeah.
and Stephen Hassan's talked about it before too. But yeah, all these things are tools. And that was something that I was thinking about this morning with when you're talking about hypnosis and about different tactics that cults use and misuse is I was thinking about, even I'm always bringing it back to the practical, guys, right? Something that we can a takeaway that we can think about and maybe apply and relate to. And I want everybody to put in their own thoughts and don't take my word for anything. That's why it's just musings. It's just something I'm talking about, something we're thinking about. And
Hmm.
I always talk to Duncan, and I always talk about these things. But I was thinking about the concept of thought stopping cliches and repetition, because I know, honey, you talk about the whole repetition a
Yeah.
lot. And an example of a misuse of a nice little Christian song that I used to sing as a little kid, was used in the call as like almost like a thought stopping cliche. One sec, pause for a drink of water. Sorry, dry in here. Is the song we used to sing, God is so good, God is so good, God is so good, he's so good to me. I know I'm off tune, but yeah, so you sing that over and over and over and over and over. God is so good, God is so good. And you're like, but God wants me to starve into this and that. Oh, God is good. God is good. Or like, oh, geez, this happened and that happened. Or like somebody, one of my loved ones died. Well, God is good. God has a plan. It's like he planned for all these terrible things to happen. He planned
Yeah, it
for
doesn't
people to be
explain anything.
abused. He planned,
Yeah,
right, right. But it was just like,
just
God
shoot
is good.
down, you
And so it's like, God is so good, but he's throwing you in hell. God is
know?
so good, but he wants you to starve. God is so good, but he wants you to take all your money. Like, come on. It just, I do think that, God is, it's good if you think God is good. And if
I
there's a
mean, it
God,
goes along
he's
with that
good.
whole blind obedience mentality, like, you
Right.
just can't
Right.
question, you just have to believe. Because to me, like, the non-questioning thing is like, I mean, it's not a form of hypnosis, but telling people, like in Scientology especially, you're an SP if you question. I mean, you can't even in other words, you've gotta take your critical thinking faculties and just shut them off. What kind of nonsense is that? Like, if you can't question something and it can't withstand any questioning, clearly people don't want you to think for yourself. So that's
Right.
a red flag, a huge one. So
Exactly, exactly. And that we're honest here, guys. And some of there I think there's been some thought stopping cliches that developed here in this community, Don't let Osa win. Keep your eye on the prize. I don't know, but whatever. I mean, there's been a bunch of different things like, oh, don't be critical, or you're going against the cause. It's like, no, I'm just being honest about what I think. If nobody, like, agrees with me, that's okay. That's okay. But we need to be able to speak. And it's like, who's they? Like this whole thing of like, um, feeling like there was like almost a hierarchy that was developing in this community.
which would
And
tend to happen, it would.
right, right. And this is what I put as the description. Um, I want to just share this because this was something that I put on my community page this morning. Share screen, share screen. There it is. So this was the time, 11:30 a.m. this morning, Eastern Standard Time. Groupthink and power distance. What happens when a group comes together? Sometimes a hierarchy forms and groupthink ensues. It's very subtle, and oftentimes it takes a revolution to break through and be freed. Is that happening in SBTV community? Join Duncan and me to discuss this. So something I'm seeing as a trend right now is that especially the second gens and the younger generation are pushing back. You got Liz Gale. She, bless her, she went out and put out some truths about her family, some things that had been covered up, and I'm sure that was so hard for her to do. She was very, 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 very courageous to expose some things in her family that were covered up by Scientology. And Kelly, speaking out yesterday, Surge, all of them, the power Surge. It's funny that his
Yeah.
name is Surge. So and even several people that I know of, especially one up bring it up because it's been public, is Marisa. Our friend Marisa there, Diane Eddix. She had been slated to be on the Aftermath, Leah Remini in the Aftermath, but she was sidelined because part of her story would have made one of the stars of the show, which strange that they told her that stars of the show look bad, which was Mike Rinder. And some people have been asking about accountability for that. And I think it's legitimate. I really do, because nobody is answerable to Mike Rinder. Nobody, like this whole SBTV thing, nobody owns it. Nobody owns the nonprofit, the Aftermath Foundation. Nobody owns SPTV. Nobody owns the internet, and nobody owns you. Nobody owns me.
Yep.
Nobody owns Duncan. Nobody owns any of you. There's no rules. You have your own conscience, and everyone does what they feel is right. Lovett
I
said,
totally agree with you.
hierarchy is always an illusion. There's really no such thing. All right, go ahead, honey. What were you going to
In
say?
your head. Oh, I was basically agreeing with you. I feel like the whole idea of free speech, it gets suppressed when there's a power structure, the hierarchy thing happens. And I think one of the best things about the internet, I mean, people a lot talk about the downside of the internet and all this stuff. I'm like, you know what? It's been extremely freeing because now it's a way of free speech. Like a lot of these social media sites are actually a good thing in a sense. Yeah, people can abuse them and put a crap out there. But on the other hand, how freeing, because the, politicians and corrupt governments and everything have a very hard time shutting down the internet and blocking communication. Well, this is free speech, and it's not always going to be pretty. We're all coming from different places in life and our experiences. We can also learn from each other. This is great. And I even think, like what Marilyn was talking about, like other people putting things out there that take a lot of courage. I mean, I've seen so many people like just letting things go, releasing pain and suffering and struggles and trauma. And I'm like, you know what? That's actually therapeutic. It's very healing to be able to get out there and talk and let it out. You've been bottling crap up for years, and now you can get out in front of your friends. And I realize, yeah, you can't trust everybody. There's going to be creepers and various kinds of jerks out there and trolls that are going to turn up and go against people that are just being honest. But this is a platform where you can be transparent and open. And if you're not, yeah, it might come back and bite you in the ass. In fact, we've obviously seen it happening, because the only thing that allows these types of things to survive is the fact that people are transparent and open, and you can trust other people in the group. So if you get people you can't trust that are misrepresenting themselves or deceiving people, they should be called out. I mean, it's painful and nobody wants to do it. I don't want to do it. But there's cases where, there's people that are disingenuous and aren't really in support of the mission. And to me, the mission is, we're like, my little thing, free as an eagle, just, I identify with that. I love eagles. I love being outdoors. I love nature. It just represents to me freedom. Like the whole idea of being unleashed from cult control and all this kind of crap that we've been under. So the more you can let out what's in you and find people that can identify with what you want, where you want to go,
Right.
It's a good thing. And to bounce
And
back to the
also,
chat,
well, let me just say one quick thing, honey, is that just because someone's done some good things doesn't mean that you have to just give them a rubber stamp on everything. Like,
very true.
you know what I mean? And you guys know what I'm talking about, I'm sure. And I'm not mindlessly following anyone. And that's why I asked some questions. I asked Aaron a question the other day. I'm like, what say you, Aaron? I mean, I'm going to hold you accountable too. We're friends, and I like what you're doing, and I like you as a person, but no one's perfect. And I hope people do that with me too. Either, there's been some things in the comments that kind of corrected me on some things, and, my misuse of the word apostate the other day and everything else. And yeah, I think about it. I take it in consideration, and I'm not like either ignore it or just be like, oh, you keyboard warrior, shut up. Like, no, I take it into consideration, and don't tell people they have to think the way I think. I
No,
do
we're
what
all
I do.
different, have different things to bring to the table. I'm just going to touch on a couple of chats I'm seeing. I know I'm interrupting Marilyn because she was about to
Okay.
do
Do
it
you
when
see
I
the
jumped
start?
in.
There's starred questions too, if you want to go into the starred.
Okay, let me
But
see if I can
but
figure out how to do
pop
that.
up whatever you want to do first.
Okay, yeah, I don't even know how to get to the
You can
start ones.
click
It's
on.
something I got to figure out.
Okay. Up at the top, it says live. You're in the live chat, and then there's
Oh,
start.
yeah, yeah.
It says
Oh, okay.
9.
It's right there.
Yep.
Okay, so Lovett said
You
AA
can
is an
click on it,
example.
pop it up.
Oh, okay.
Yep, click on it, it pops up. There you go. You
Oh,
got it.
there we go. Okay, yeah, I'm so new at this. It's ridiculous. I've never done any of this.
You're doing it.
So
You're doing it, honey.
doing
You're doing it.
it. I'll get this down. Okay, so Lovett said AA is an example of something that some people can approach like a cult and some not. Some people can't help themselves to treat things like a cult. Yeah, I mean, most organizations are typically founded by, one or a handful of people, and they sort of set down what they think is the policy or the way to go, whatever like that. And that automatically puts them in a position of leadership. And then they draw in followers that are obviously below them, which is a typical part of any organization. So, and it
Mhm.
can go bad or it can go good. Because I realize human nature by necessity is people are trusting, especially like I was having a discussion with the boys the other day of the idea that, there's a point like they're going through their typical adulting transition and in their early 20s. I'm like, yeah, they say your brain isn't fully developed till like 26 or 27. And when you look back, it's like little kids obviously don't know anything and they need guidance. They need a lot of guidance when they're really small. And as they get older, they need a little less guidance. But when they're adolescents, they go through the transition of having to, they want to be independent and they want to rebel against being told what to do. And I get that. I've never been like one of those authoritarian dads. It's this is the way it is. Damn it. You do what I say. Damn it. You know, I'm like, no, I'm not like that. I'm like, no, if I want to get through to you with sound reasoning and love and caring and let's discuss stuff. Instead of that thought stopping, you have to obey because I said so mentality, which I always
Mhm.
had great contempt for. It's more like, no, I want you to know the why, not just what to do. And I think I said this recently on another stream is like, I'm the kind of guy that I never like just being told to follow formulas. Oh, this is the formula. Just follow it. Just plug numbers in. Well, wait a minute. Why does this work this way? I want to understand it. I feel like I'm being robbed of the actual learning about this thing. If somebody's just trying to ram it down my throat or say, just
Right.
memorize this. I don't want to memorize something. I want to understand something. It takes more work and time and trouble, but then you take it with you and you're not depending on somebody else to tell you what to do. You can think for yourself. That to me is the ultimate education is teach somebody how to think critically and how to reason for themselves. It's like the teach a man to fish thing. Teach him to fish and he'll live for a lifetime. He'll be able to eat for a lifetime versus just throwing him a fish. Well, telling somebody just to obey you without explaining anything, you're making somebody dumb ultimately. You're not really teaching or training them in a useful way. So my attitude is, you know, give people what they need to work with and then give them some trust. So, and I'll take a second and give an extreme example of this. I have a good buddy, Pete, who used to be in the fiber optics world, and he was a chemical engineer and all this stuff, and worked for a fiber optics company. And he said there was one company he would do business with, and he realized that it was an extreme top-down micromanagement type of company, and the people there were so intimidated they were afraid to do anything, and none of them would take any initiative and or make any decisions without this guy's rubber stamping it. And he's like, oh my God, if that guy disappeared, the whole company would just implode because there's nobody that dares take any initiative, you know, because they're all being micromanaged. And I never forgot that. I'm like, that is just what you do not want because that's high power distance and it immobilizes and paralyzes everybody else. They're not able to function on their own. They have no confidence. And I'm like, you know, if
Right.
you really want somebody to succeed, you want to build confidence in them, you have to trust them. So it's like if you don't trust somebody, they feel, you know, I don't know how to describe it, but if somebody doesn't feel trusted, they're going to be held back terribly. If you trust somebody, even if they're not quite where you want them to be, you've got to let them make mistakes. You've got to give them the freedom to get out there. If people are so afraid to make mistakes that they won't even take a slight risk, you've paralyzed them. Whereas if you say, "Hey, I'm going to trust you with this. Here's what I want you to do, but I'm not going to tell you how to do it. This is your goal. Go do this," and walk away, and they'll grow. But if you have
Mhm.
to micromanage them and tell them every last little detail, then they're never going to grow. You know, you're ruining them. So I don't know how I got in that, but I did.
No, it's really good, honey. I mean, yeah, it totally makes a lot of sense, and that's what cults do. It's like just do what you're told and mindlessly, just do it, and you don't understand how or why you're doing it. It's just giving yourself over,
Yeah,
and
yeah. You've just
it all works together to turn you into an automaton.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and that's what the
absolutely.
cult leaders want. You don't want, you know, it's like dictators and authoritarians and of other governments that, you know, like I think of North Korea as an extreme example, you know, Kim Jong Un or whoever, you know, basically born into this situation where they're literally trained to just be a dictator and a micromanager and to control everybody else. And
Yeah,
they can sit there and watch everybody just marching in lockstep to their commands. You have a bunch of robots and automatons. How are they ever going to become who they were meant to be on this planet? They can't. They're
no.
nothing but, you know, cogs in a machine. And I have, you know, I hate that type of thing
Yeah.
because you're
And that goes
denying
back to
people anything.
the whole idea of the hierarchy. You were talking about with power distance. I wanna, kinda probe that a little bit more because that just really made so much sense to me because there's times when, I think even in this community, it's like you put somebody on a pedestal or you think they're untouchable or you just go along with them because, "Oh, that's that person. They've been doing this for many, many, many years." Well, it doesn't matter. Maybe, there's something, there could be a course correction. I'm really, yeah, don't burn my biscuits. I'm really aware of the fact that just because I'm older doesn't necessarily make me infallible. Infallible, is that the word? Or you know, wiser than the younger generation. I mean, I've really learned so much from these second gens. I really have. And I'm glad that they feel a new sense of freedom. I think there's been there is like a revolution happening with the TikTok streets movement, and also in this space too. I think that people are feeling more free to speak their minds, feeling more free. And it's like, and there's these things that are trying to shut you down, like, oh, don't attack, or don't you know go against the grain, or no infighting. Those are the things, like in Scientology. It's like, never defend, always attack, or always attack but never defend, right? Well, that's like, there, some of them are still in that. I believe, this is just my opinion, is that some of the powers that be, even in the space, that thought they could take over, or thought they could set the rules, were of that mentality still. It was like, we're not going to defend ourselves, we're not going to answer questions, and we're just going to forge through and just step in line, or you're out. And I think they found out that doesn't really work in the real world, and it certainly doesn't work with free thinkers and real critical thinkers, the healthy kind, and the younger generation that are like, hey, I'm going to
Yeah,
speak
we don't
out,
have
you know?
to to this nonsense. Yeah,
Yeah.
like
Yeah, there's a difference, right, right, poet. There's a difference between attacking someone and asking questions. I'm not calling anybody names. I'm not making, well, I do make fun of people. Well, I make fun of Scientology. I make fun of cults, and I do crochet pieces, but it's not any one person that I'm making fun of, you know? What were you going to say, honey? I'm sorry.
oh, I was thinking just because there's a lot of good stuff in the chat, let's address some of these.
Yeah.
Let's see. Okay, I'm just gonna learn to pop some of these up. Okay, Mach 1, isn't the generational conflict in the approach kind of a classic when it comes to working to the bullshit hangover and comfort narratives? Um, can you interpret that in a good way you can answer?
Me? Okay, the generational conflict in the approach, kind of okay, isn't the generational conflict in the approach kind of a classic? Okay, so how the younger generation approaches things versus the older, I believe that what it means when it comes to working to the through maybe working through the bullshit, hangover, and comfort narratives. Okay, bullshit hangover. I I mean, the way I interpret that, and Sophia, you can clarify a little more, is maybe we were talking about controlling the narrative earlier. I think that, like, some of the thought stopping cliches, the status quo, the I've never heard it called comfort narratives. That's really interesting. But controlling the narratives, that's not really going to fly with the younger generation. So kind of classic. Yeah, I'm not sure. But that's kind of what I take it as. But that's very interesting. Very interesting. You want me to read a couple, hun?
Yeah, go for it.
Okay, from a poet. In groups, you are going to have people who are more going to command more attention than others. Yes, that's just how it is. The kicker is if you get pounced upon for asking questions, be wary then. Yeah, I brought up several of those examples this week. Yep, that is true. Feral Cheryl. I love this. This is good. Feral Cheryl. you need to you need to make an actual channel, Cheryl, just so that you can call it Feral Cheryl and come on and just
Yeah,
be
that's very
like this.
cool.
Yep. HG Tudor said 2% of people are sociopaths. They manipulate their way to the top and control everyone else. The world is run by sociopaths. Right. The top 2%, top
Yeah,
1%.
sadly, it's a terrible principle.
Yeah,
It's
you're right.
crazy.
Yeah,
Hmm.
it's true. Bev, what I've noticed about SPs is they all have a great sense of humor. Yeah, they're so funny. Yeah, that's so true. I have a blast with the SPs. They're awesome. This is a good one.
I don't.
Oh, go ahead. Go ahead.
I was just going to throw this in there before I switched over to the Stard. Somebody asked about the cruise, if there were details. I think it was April,
Yes.
and we didn't answer that. So if you have the
Yep.
means of putting that up for anyone, we're hoping to get more people on board. Literally,
Yes.
so
Yep.
we're committed. We're in.
Yeah. If I have a mod in the chat, it's just at Chow Yun Smuts. Smut. It's at Chow Yun Smut is the. I can make a banner. Is Cricket's channel. She has some information of FAQ on her community page, and also her email is chowyunsmut@gmail.com. So I can make some banners or put something in the chat. But if Miss Sunrise Dawn, if you're in here, if you don't mind doing that, that would be awesome. I gotta prepare better, guys, with links and stuff. I'm more prepared for Kelly's streams than I am my own. Yeah. So Poet said, my number one online rule, never lie online. Yes. Sooner or later, the truth will eventually come to light, given enough time, especially if you put yourself out in the public eye. Yes. Honesty is always the best policy. Yep. Never lie online. That's good. Good rule. April Taylor, I agreed with you about the word apostate. Oh, thank you. It's okay if people don't agree, but I appreciate that a couple people might agree. It seems strange to me that he used it. Yeah, and I think Aaron explained that very well. That the courts and academics had kind of taken that that word and mean it almost like maybe a whistleblower type thing, that they're sometimes disgruntled or whatever. But yeah, and I just said, and I actually played that part of it back so I could see what I actually said. And I just said, to me, it means da da da, a biblical term. I said it's a Christian term to me. So doesn't mean listen, I know I'm wrong a lot. And I know that, my opinion or my experience or my view isn't the same as a lot of other people's. So that's fine. That's
Yeah, I'm gonna interrupt you just for a second. I was going back over some of the non-starred, but I saw an interesting one, Mach 1.
yeah.
I like to say you
Yes, she's
recognize that
explaining
you're
it.
trained Catholic because certain rituals stick with people if you get trained early and often enough. That is actually a huge thing with a lot of organizations, especially the church. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
I actually went through a number of churches starting out in the Methodist church, and I realized that rituals that are performed and passed along are a great way to inculcate and train and teach people things. Because if you have to perform rituals, you're doing something usually physically as well, like taking communion or things like that. For example, baptism is a lot of rituals that have meaning and purpose. And whether they're good or bad, I mean, that's a way of, it isn't hypnotism exactly, but it's repetition. So it's like, to me, like a lot of the songs in the church are very repetitious, but some of them are preparing you basically to submit to control,
Yes.
and like,
Mm.
Marilyn has quoted this song that we used to sing a lot, especially in the cult church, because it was mental preparation. It was almost hypnotic. Trust and obey, for there's no other way.
Mm-hmm.
Well, trust and obey in a perfect world would be a safe thing to do. But if you're in a cult, trust and obey lays you open in a hypnotic sort of a way. Repetition, and a lot of the hymns, for anyone that's been in the church world, like were written by like Charles Wesley or whatever, and they're four stanzas of
Yeah.
essentially melodically very simple, very repetitive. Many of the songs use almost exactly the same melody, maybe just a few little tweaks. And these songs, you sing the four verses, you have a hymnal, you pick it up, and then it's in the program. Like there would always be like this bulletin type thing up in the front on either side of the church, and with numbers, hymn number 316 we're going to do, and then 204 or whatever, and there'd be 4 or 5 throughout the service. And you had a bulletin. They would pass these bulletins out. Or you get the ushers. I was an usher at our Christian Assembly, which was at a Assembly of God church, and you hand everybody a program on their way to their seat, and they'd sit down, and everybody sort of traditionally had places they like to sit, da da da. And I'm not even bashing that church, because that church actually had some really good people in it, and it was, probably of all the church experiences I had, that was the best one. But I mean, they all have the similar characteristics, because you sit down, there's a program, so you don't have to think too much. You just look, and there's introductory prelude, they call it. The prelude was always introductory instrumental, organ music, and they had this big
Right.
giant pipe organ at the church I grew up in, huge. It was worth hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars, and then big banks of pipes and everything built up into these big arched areas up in the high part of the building, kind of over the sanctuary or over the part that where the the podium and all that kind of thing were. And so it had an intimidating big feel in that church. And it was a beautiful building, honestly. But, you know, so there was a certain ritual you would go through. You'd go in, you'd sit down, the pastor would get up and introduce, say hi to everybody, da da da. And you'd have this music while people were filing in after grabbing their coffee or whatever. And they'd all sit down, and then you have a brief little introductory message, and then you'd have a hymn, and then you'd have somebody might get up and do some kind of instrumental or a song. There was a certain order of worship, they called it. And then at different points there'd be a hymn, so everybody grabbed their hymnal, open it, and we'd all sing whatever the hymn was, and then put it down. And then at some point the pastor would get up and do a sermon, and you're sitting there for 20 minutes just listening. And it's a power distance. The pastor's up on a stage basically at the front of the building, dressed in robes or finery, and that's another thing about the church. Like, Jesus even said, like, hey, don't call anyone master or teacher. You're all equals. He totally understood and respected the idea. We're not to create this hierarchy in the church, even though that never is followed or very rarely is followed. But so you have somebody that's standing up there with robes on and behind a microphone. Well, not many people are going to dare interrupt that. That's just the way it is. If you're going to be there, you're going to sit in your pew and you're going to kind of listen to what's going on. And there's, a type of peer pressure that prevents you from being disruptive. So unless you're singing, a lot of the newer churches go into like more open praise and worship and stuff like that. But I mean, the way it was done, the old British way we inherited in the Methodist Church was very staid and very solid and very, very predictable. So anyway, these are all sort of how a hypnotic effect takes place, because you're singing repetitive, simple music that you very easy to remember. And after you've been going to a church for years, these things are just embedded in your head. You'll never. It's like if you're a Scientologist, you're filled with Scientology. And Marilyn was saying a few minutes ago, like how the hierarchy that sort of was trying to establish itself with people that, in my opinion, like they make the joke about, yeah, you can get the girl out of the trailer park, but you can't get the trailer park out of the girl. Well, my attitude is you can get people out of Scientology with a little work, but it's very hard to get the Scientology out of the people. And when they were trained and grew up in it or spent years or rose up high in the hierarchy of Scientology, that's what these people were trained to do. So whether they're in the Marine Corps or in a cult or something, these people are trained. So it's very hard for them to not apply whatever techniques and tactics they were using while they were in the cult. Even though they're out of the cult, it's not out of them entirely. I think that's why we had some of the rifts that have developed in this community, because people are still programmed with this obsolete programming, but it's part of them now. It's embedded
That's
in them.
the thing about fundamentalism, and I want to say, like, what you described growing up. I mean, I wouldn't consider that culty, although I could see how, like, with you were programmed because you learned all those hymns and then they were misused in the call. And
Yeah.
and the whole fundamentalism thing is, I want to pop up one thing. Rev Girl says, and she's an ex-Scientologist. Honestly, I don't know for sure what apostle, well, we were saying apostate, but apostle means I'm not practicing the extreme definition obsessiveness that was taught in Scientology anymore. Good, very good point. Very good point. And different things mean different things to different people. And that's, I guess, what my point was about the apostate thing is, to me, it means a certain thing. I'm not telling people they can't call him apostate, Alex, whatever. But yeah, that's a really good point, Rev Girl, because it's just so cut and dry and non-negotiable in these cults, in these fundamental high control groups. This is the way you have to think, this is the way you have to interpret it, this is a source, or this is the gospel, this is the truth. So we're people, and we can interpret things different ways, we can understand things in different ways, and we can do what we feel is right. So that's my
Exactly.
spiel.
Yeah.
I had a couple more things that were starred, honey. I just, if you don't
If you
mind,
don't mind, I'm just going to step out for a quick second.
okay,
I
sure, honey.
drank too much coffee. I'll be right back. Don't anybody
Okay,
go anywhere.
just
I'll
click
be
your
back.
mute. Okay, I can mute you. Hi, everybody. I'm just gonna remove him for a minute. Whoa, hello, hello, hello. So I hope this is educational, inspirational. I don't know, some kind of ational. um, yeah, it good to see you all. I'm just gonna put some special way. I don't know what that is. Yes, yes, yes. Yeah, thank you for that, Rev Girl. I appreciate that. Love it. Doug did the most extensive deprogramming of anyone I've heard of. He does such a great work to break down how the programming occurs. Miss him. I miss him too, very much so. And you're absolutely right. And one of the reasons why I'm delving into things like he wanted to talk about NLP, um, one of our streams that we were planning on doing before, unfortunately we lost him. This is why I'm, continuing that work that we started together. And Duncan does great research, and I hope you've noticed he's really smart and thoughtful, and doesn't just do intellectual exercises just to do intellectual exercises. Very practical guy. So. If you don't mind subscribing to his channel, that would be awesome if you'd like to. Consensually subscribe to Duncan. And it looks like he's back. Thumbs up, babe. You good? You good? All right. Pop you back in. There he is. You're
Can you
back.
hear me?
Yep.
Okay,
I can
cool.
hear you.
Tilt my
I can
glasses
hear you.
up so I don't glare too much.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. Oh, thank you, Atkins in Texas. Love you. Your content and you, Marilyn. Thank you so much. I'm so glad you're all here. It's like, wow, we got 52 people in here. That's amazing.
Cool.
So good to see you all. I've got a few more starred. Maybe we can think about, winding down at some point soonish, because
Yeah, I got a couple more
I'm gonna
things
have
to
to go
share, but I
pee.
want to go on. Yeah, if you need to take a break, I can rant for a bit.
Okay, I can do that. I just want to pop up a couple
Yeah,
of
sure.
things. Maybe
Don't want to
maybe
ignore
we can.
anybody.
Yeah. Sophia said the older generations are more easily content with less addressing some of the issues, while the younger ones want to address more subtle issues in contrast to the direct survival reaction. That's good. That's a good point. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Rev Girl, speaking from my place in SPTV, I'm still very much working the trauma out, and my trauma is all gobbledygook. Yeah, I am too. I feel like I'm gobbledygooking a lot on here on my channel, and just
All
working out a
working
lot of
out.
yeah, right on screen with y'all. Yeah. Peace be the journey. Challenge me to be better. Hold me accountable. Don't be challenging to make me go along with the status quo. Absolutely. Yes.
Yep.
Yes. And anything I say here, Duncan says here, we're not telling you how to think. We're just giving you, like I said, musings. It's not morning dictations. It's not morning, I don't know,
Well,
the
my attitude,
gospel truth.
I mean, we want to be free of cult mind control and anything like it, or erroneous thinking. So my attitude is forewarned is forearmed. Like, if we know how cults operate, then we recognize tactics that they're using, and we can stay away from that. And that's, to me, that's the best defense. It's like education about how something works. It's a way to stay out from under, being taken control of. In fact, in a minute or two, maybe if Mel needs to step out,
He
there's
wants
this.
to get rid of me, guys.
No.
I'm just teasing you.
I just tried to, this is material that I could fill in with, so I won't stand there mumbling and stumbling. But yeah, I've got some notes on what typically happens during like the 4 stages of hypnosis. That's kind of cool. And some things
Yeah, no,
about
do that,
intimidation
because
are kind of cool.
Pam just said, really looking forward to NLP discussion. I'll definitely do
Oh, yeah.
one on that, but this is a really good precursor, because neuro-linguistic programming is considered, one hypnotic technique.
Yeah, it's just
So,
weaponized to take control of people in an evil way.
yep. We're burning our biscuits and dropping our fucking spatulas.
There you
That's right,
go.
Yadira. So good to see you. So good to see you. All right, I'm gonna step out and go pee. I'll be right back. And oh, thank you, Ruby. I'm gonna go cry, but in a happy cry
Oh,
in the bathroom. So
we're
sweet.
carrying forward
And
good the tradition.
Duncan's gonna explain more about hypnosis. So I will be right back. I'm gonna put you full screen, honey. Okay. I'm gonna put you full screen.
I'm ready. Okay, cool. Thank you. Okay, so I'm going to touch on a couple other notes here that I took down, and one of these was interesting. Like in a typical hypnotic session. So There are 4 stages of hypnosis: induction, deepener, suggestions, and emergence. So those are 4 things: hypnosis, induction, deepener, suggestions, emergence. So induction, during this stage, you begin to relax, focus your attention, and ignore distractions. Your hypnotherapist will guide you through this stage with specific techniques, such as controlled breathing. And breathing is very important in meditation and trying to relax. Even if you can't get to sleep at night, I've been using like breathing techniques that really works. So controlled breathing, and then says breathing in over a count of 7, breathing out over a count of 11, of progressive muscle relaxation. And I've been talked through, like when I was younger, they'd do these hypnotic things, or they'd have, say, a bunch of people in a youth group lay out on the floor. I don't know if you guys remember these days or whether you went through any of this, but back when I was in like our youth group at church, they would do these trust falls where you'd have a person stand there and there'd be a circle of people standing around them. And the idea was that the person would be asked to just literally just fall in any direction, close their eyes, just fall over. And the idea was learning to trust people so that the other people in the group would catch the person as they fell so they wouldn't land on the floor. And once in a great while, things would go awry and somebody wouldn't be paying attention and the person would just land on the floor, which is kind of hilarious. But, those are, kind of hypnotic type things. But the controlled breathing is a thing that gets used. Of progressive muscle relaxation. So tensing muscles as you breathe in, relaxing muscles as you breathe out, then repeating in a certain order of muscle groups throughout the body. Well, so we did that too. Like we would have a sort of a hypnotist. I mean, a normal person could do this. It wasn't complicated, but you literally would talk somebody through a whole thing. Like they would give out mats. Everybody would lay on the floor or carpet and just lay back, and they'd say, okay, now starting at the top of your head, you're totally relaxing. Your hair is just falling all over the place. You're completely relaxed. Your neck, this basically, I could talk you through a 20-minute thing like that, and half of us would be asleep because they literally talk you through this thing of relaxing every part of your body one at a time, say from your head to your feet. So that would be the induction gets this process started. The deepener, it says this stage continues the first stage, taking your relaxation and focus to a deeper level. So this step often involves counting down or using similar descending imagery, such as walking downstairs, slowly sinking deeper and deeper into a comfortable bed. These first 2 stages are aimed at easing your openness to suggestions. So you're actually obeying somebody during this process because they're talking you through it and you're doing the relaxing and you're following the steps. So this is hypnotic, and it's getting you into a relaxed state where they're sort of taking control of you. So then the third stage is the suggestions. So this is the stage for actual change in experience, behavior, or perception. Your hypnotist will use imagery and carefully chosen language. The suggestions are usually symptom focused so as to resolve a symptom, or exploratory, to explore experiences associated with the start of symptoms. Suggested changes may be in perception, sensation, emotion, memory, thought, or behavior. So as an example, they say, well, to quit smoking, you'll learn to identify your triggers to want to smoke, learn positive ways to change, understand resources to affect change, disrupt your pattern, attach a better response, notice the difference, and install the change in behavior. Da, 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 da. You may be encouraged to see your old self with black lungs in a mirror behind you and see your new healthy self with clean lungs in a mirror in front. You'll then be guided to choose which self you like and walk toward that self. So this is all kind of hypnotic mind control, but in a way that has a good ending. Okay, so then number 4 is called emergence. When you're coming out of this thing, it says during this stage, you'll come out of hypnosis. Your hypnotist may use reverse deepeners, such as giving you the suggestion that you're climbing up stairs or counting up. So that is kind of the essence of hypnosis, which is actually, very powerful. And I'll touch on one other thing here. Intimidation, like when it comes to the whole power distance thing, like I think of hypnosis as being sort of the inducing passivity, making suggestions. It's kind of mellow. It's not violent. It's not excessively forceful. It's more of the mellow kind of thing that can slide under the radar. Like you can get into church, it's usually a peaceful kind of up environment, and you're being, hypnotized gently. Whereas power distance, is more likely to potentially involve intimidation. So I'll take a minute I just want to read some definitions. And
Hi, I'm
then,
back. I'm back.
oh, hello, hon. Hi.
Yeah,
Hi.
so
So,
I'm seeing in the chat, I just want to, clarify something that, hypnosis
sure.
itself can be used for good. Again, it's a tool, right? Because people are saying, like Poet said, I do guided meditation, self hypnosis with my therapist from Virginia. It's been helping a lot. Yes, it definitely can help. It can help people with trauma. It can help people with, addictions and things like that. So we're not saying that hypnosis is bad. It's,
These are
that's
all
why
tools,
yeah, exactly. It can be used for good. It's just, when you have, like Mike Brown said the other night about auditing, it's a lot different. They call it counseling, but Scientology twists a lot of words and concepts and definitions, and they call it counseling, but it really isn't counseling. It's not really guiding you for your own good and for you to discover things. It's like basically an authoritarian. It's a tool to get you passive so that they can control you, and that's not the right application. It's so that you can relax and center yourself and help yourself, and giving you guidance. That's what real therapy and counseling is about. But yeah, it's just all these tools can be used for good or for evil, is we've been saying over and over. If you want to quit smoking, it can work, right. So things like that, I think is good. So we just, I got to put the disclaimers out because I don't I don't want anyone to misunderstand us, or somebody to just pop in and be like, Marilyn's saying that, or Duncan's saying that hypnosis is bad.
No, I'm
It's
not.
just,
Yeah, definitely not
it's just
saying that.
right. And you're reading the definitions, and that's just what the
Yeah, I'm
definitions are.
trying to stay safe. Like everybody has to put these disclaimers out. We're not doctors. I don't have a master's
Right.
in hypnotherapy or anything.
Exactly. We're
I'm
not
talking
we're not
and sharing
experts.
what I have learned, and I'm trying to reference my sources. And if if anyone wants to know more, uh, you can Google these things, or I'll give you more information. But I mean, I think this stuff's very interesting. And the intimidation thing, I have a few definitions I'd read if we still have a little bit of time, just because that that's the dark side. Like to me, that's the forceful side. Like you have
I have
power distance just happens, and it's not even necessarily bad all the time because you need leaders, but bad leadership and dictators and people like that use things like intimidation. So if I can take a couple
Veterans
minutes,
Administration. I thought we said Virginia. Oh, Veterans
they,
Administration.
oh, funny.
I stand corrected. I'm glad when people do that because I need a
Yeah, yeah,
little
we need
guidance.
clarity.
I need guidance here. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt, honey. I just saw some things in the chat and I just wanted
Oh
to be
no,
sure
that's fine. I don't want to
everyone
exclude
knew that
anybody. There's a lot of good comments and good input here. I don't want
some
to.
people are saying it doesn't work for them. That's yeah,
Well,
totally
it's like
a
I'm
little more
resistant to
suggestible.
things like that because I'm afraid of being taken advantage of because I know how these things work. I mean, when I was young, my brother and I got involved in a sales organization that was terribly corrupt, and it was a school of hard knocks because these
Yeah.
guys behind in the office behind closed doors were snorting coke, and you know they were just living a reckless, irresponsible life. And eventually, we saw through it and realized that they're and we had one of our guys that was a sales guy we all liked was found dead on the railroad tracks one morning, and he was trying to work his way up into the organization, and they would just get him horribly drunk at bars, line up martinis, and he was enough of a drunk to drink them all, and he stumbled out in the middle of the night one time and gets run over by a train. So that was a little nerve wracking. He was a nice guy. That was the sad part of it.
Sad.
Um,
Yeah.
so I get away from that. So intimidate, you know, when I read these definitions, it really showed us how a lot of cults work, especially things like Scientology. So intimidation, let's see, the actual definition of the word got away from me. It didn't print, but there's a lot of synonyms. So I'll read these synonyms and their definitions. Um, Intimidate, okay, it is in here. Intimidate, cow, bulldoze, bully, browbeat means to frighten into submission. Intimidate implies inducing fear or a sense of inferiority into another. Cow implies reduction to a state where the spirit is broken or all courage is lost. Bulldoze implies an intimidating or overcoming of resistance, usually by urgings, demands, or threats. Bully implies intimidation through threats, insults, or aggressive behavior. Browbeat implies a cowing through arrogant, scornful, or contemptuous treatment. So obviously in things like Scientology and most cults, we see a heck of a lot of that going on. And especially it's easier when the power distance has been established because people will just intimidate people, put them in a state of fear or threat, or even like, even Christianity, like the abuse of, like the Bible will say in one place, God is love, but then people will go into the Old Testament and say, well, my best friend Pete would actually use this example. When he was a little kid, he grew up Catholic, right? So what the heck, I'm losing my ability to remember words. Like we always had pastors and ministers, so they had like, Father so-and-so at the Catholic Church, right? So they would take the kids down into the basement to the oil burner and open the little window. There's like a little tiny door into a furnace. So you see this fiery vortex of flame in there. And they would point in there and say, this is where you're going for eternity if you don't submit to God and accept Jesus as Savior or whatever. Now, Jesus is love. He represents, God's supposed to represent love. Now, I don't know about you, but I would say that falls into the title of intimidation and bullying.
But God is good and he loves you.
But if you don't comply, if you don't obey, and you're not perfect and you sin, guess what? And, you're going to go in here and burn for eternity. That's pretty intimidating. Well, most people are going to say, well, Jesus, I better sign on here. I don't want to be that guy. And I'll throw this out there. My NDE studies, which I haven't mentioned in a little bit because I didn't want that to be the dominant conversation here, but
here we go, guys.
Yeah. So this is just a teaser.
I just like to tease you about it. Yeah.
But people that have gone to the other side and come back almost universally say that the first thing they encounter that's powerful and amazing is the love that they experience. And a lot of them have met. I know some people are going to think I've gone off the rails, but I don't think I have, because on the other side,
I wouldn't think that, honey.
Well, good, because Jesus is there, angels are there, ancestors, parents are there, even pets are there. So it's like this is an environment of pure love and acceptance. It's unconditional. Atheists have come back and said, oh my God, I hated God, or I had no use for God, or I didn't believe in God. People from any religion or walk of life have come back and said there's no judgment there. And I'm like, wow, that's a far cry from what most of us been exposed to. I'm pretty glad to hear that, because wow, and there's hundreds, thousands of people that have had these experiences. So, I'll put another plug in here. And this has been approved, but John Poe actually volunteered. He had an NDE at some point earlier in his life, and he volunteered to come on with me and be interviewed, which I'm very appreciative of. And I'm hoping to do that this coming week. So, and there's been actually several others. I've got say 3 people that have come forward and said they're willing to be interviewed. So he's the first one I think that had come to me about it. There's been a couple of others. I won't mention their names until it's been pretty much locked down. But, John said anytime, I said, as soon as my channel's up and running and I'm in a position to do it, which I think at this point I am now, he's willing to come on and do that. And I'm like, yeah, this guy he's a man's man. He's a tough guy. And I'm like, he's the perfect guy to talk to because he's not going to mince words. And if he experienced something, I believe him. He's got credibility. He's a real guy. He's been a monster truck guy, a police chief. He's not a timid guy. And yet the other thing I've seen from him through the streams he's been on and everything, he's a very compassionate, caring, loving guy. And like, you know what? He is a good representative of people that have come back from the other side and have changed and are really caring people that do what they do to help people. Like being a cop, you go out there, he really believes in what he's doing. He wants to help people. He's a good, solid guy. And so anyway.
So we're talking about Poe on the Go. Everybody.
Poe on the Go. Yeah.
Poe on the Go is going to be your first guest. That's amazing.
Yeah. So I'm going to, we'll put that out there as soon as it's scheduled. I'm hoping to do it this week if he's good with it. And I'm fascinated by this because to talk to somebody we actually know, I've been, listening to hundreds of accounts from people I've never meet. And I'm like, there are people out there, several of them, even on this chat, that have told me they've had these and they've been either afraid. And this is a new thing. Like in the past, people were afraid to speak out. And even 20, 30 years ago, there's people that will testify on their YouTube things that when they tried to tell their doctors they were shot up with Haldol or whatever to, you're having delusions, this doesn't happen, this is impossible, it's just a product of your mind breaking down. Well, wait a minute. If there's hundreds of people that have had this happen and they're thinking clearly and they can have perfect recall of what they went through, that doesn't sound like drugs breaking your brain down. That would produce maybe delusions, but very confused, disjointed things, not things that come together clearly and that are plausible, So anyway, that's been my major study lately as far as really digging deep, because, again, my emphasis with this channel, my channel is sort of like, where do we go from here? What is true? What's out there that we can work with? We've all been through deceptions and delusions and been misled, and a lot of people on here are jaded terribly against any concept of God or whatever. And I get that. I totally get that, because I've been there myself. And
Sorry, honey.
I'm on a little bit of a rant, but anyway, I'm just saying that's kind of
No. I
something
mean,
that I want to
I said
explore.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry that I poop that sometimes, because I'm still working out like
Well, you know
what
what?
happened.
It's all good. Here's the crazy part. It's all good. And I can even relax thinking, you know what? I don't have to control any of this. I'm not in control of any of it. All I want to do is seek the truth and share it. I don't want to be a cult leader. I don't want the responsibility. I don't want to do anything but just explore and find things out and share what I find out that's good. That's kind of the whole idea. And the free as an eagle thing to me is an aspiration of being free of delusions and damage and trauma and bad information and cult experiences and all this crap. It's like, no, if there's something real out there, that's what I'm still looking for that. And I feel like I'm finding some of it now, and I'm getting a better handle on, understanding life itself, because, there's so much we've been taught that was off the wall, and like Scientology is just made up crap. I mean, and
Right.
even the Christian church, for a lot of people, just scared into obedience, scared into signing on and saying they believe in Jesus. They don't know what they're talking about. And even the people that are preaching, half of them, unless they've been to the other side, they're parroting what they've read in books or been told by other people. And I think there's a tendency in man to want to put faith in something, because I've always been that way. And, I don't have a problem admitting that. I've always been a seeker. I've always wanted to know, the deeper meaning of life. And a lot of people have given that up as an unattainable thing, And there's a line in a song that says, I think it's in the Boxer, it's Paul Simon saying, that information is unavailable to the mortal man. I just remember that one line in that song. And I'm like,
Mm,
the information's unavailable to the mortal man. Well, guess what? There's information that is available to the mortal man, and a lot of it's been out there for a long time. And somehow it's just in a jumble of false information. So it's very hard to pick it out. It's like trying to pick one kernel of corn out of a whole pot. And I'll say this is like, to me, the best counterfeit, like if somebody handed you a dollar out of a Monopoly game, you'd be like, well, I'm not going to take that. It's Monopoly money. We joke about Monopoly money, but what about somebody hands you $100 bill and it looks absolutely authentic, and you can't determine? It would take an FBI detective to figure out that it's a counterfeit. Guess what? The best counterfeits are so much like the original that most people can't tell the difference. So that's how cults suck people in, false religions,
right.
or even religions that might be legit, but they're being presented in the wrong way. It's like the best counterfeits are the closest to the real thing. So that's how cults succeed. They suck people in by telling them that they're delivering growth and personal spiritual, advancement and all this kind of stuff. And if it looks authentic enough, people buy in. And then later, when they realize it's wrong, they've been duped. And now a lot of people are horribly jaded against any form of religion, because they've seen, there can't be 20 religions and they're all right. That's impossible. There can't be 50 versions of the Bible that are all right if they're different. What the hell gives, It's like, no, we've got to filter out all this crap, but it's very hard. Most of us can't detect the counterfeit from the real thing if it's a good counterfeit. So that's why I think a lot of us have been damaged, because we bought in. And humans that are motivated by their ego or greed or, whatever, lust, whatever their motive is underneath, and it gets out there, they're human. They're going to screw up. They're not going to present the truth correctly in a lot of cases. So that's why a lot of us are here. We're here because we need to get out of something bad and get healed from it. and get over a trauma. But then where do we go from here? We don't want to just sit mired in a bunch of untruth that we identified as untruth if there's something out there that actually makes sense. So that's my
Right.
spiel.
That's my spiel. All right, I'm gonna go back into the start, and we've been going for over an hour and a half, so let's
Okay, yeah, we can set
go
people
through our
free in a
go through our start. Farrell, Cheryl, Marilyn, I'm putting the channel together. Yay!
Oh,
It's
very
at
cool.
Farrell Cheryl on the loose. Oh, let us know when you're
Very cool.
gonna launch, or we can. Yeah, I'll subscribe even now. That'd be awesome. I can't wait. Can't wait.
Yeah, that's cool.
Farrell Cheryl. This is Sophia. It's understandable to some degree with OSA throwing whatever they can throw at them, but paranoia won't get you anywhere. Right. Yeah. Definitely OSA is a consideration, a threat. It can be a problem, but I think it's been given too much credence, too much quote power. It may or may not have been being used as a way to silence people. Like, oh, don't give the devil a foothold. That was always one with us, you know, don't let the devil win, right, honey? Don't give the
Oh,
devil a
yeah.
foothold. And it was like, it literally to control your thoughts, literally to control any questions that you had against the powers that be. So, yeah, um, the whole thing with me, this is what I believe firmly is extremes are never good. You know, you don't want to be too lackadaisical. Is that the word? You don't want to be too lax about something, and you don't want to be too paranoid about something. So it's always striking a balance, right? Don't let things control you or stifle you. So yeah, I need enough stimulation to center. Oh, this is about hypnosis. To center myself, but if you choose hypnosis in a safe environment, all the power to you. Yeah, I like
Yeah,
that.
it's a
Okay.
tool,
Yep,
it can be
yep,
very useful.
yep. Who does this sound like? God is good. He needs your money.
Yeah, that's
Follow
George
the
Carlin.
money. George
Yep.
Carlin, right? It's like, yeah, he's like, if you don't do what this guy says, you're gonna burn forever and ever and ever and ever. But God loves you, and He needs money. Yep.
Oh, that whole lie of,
This is
if
funny.
you give your money to God, then he'll multiply it back to you and all this stuff. I heard all that hogwash from
No,
so
well,
many
it does to
preachers.
somebody else, right? Yeah, the faith, yeah, the faith doctrine or the prosperity doctrine coming from somebody who takes the money of, widows and people that can't afford it. And it was like, I'll bless this handkerchief and send it to you if you send me $20, and that $20 adds up. And it's like, you're gonna get that too. No, you're not gonna be
Yeah, it doesn't
driving a
happen.
a
Yeah, it's just
Cadillac like they
it's like
are.
a Ponzi
Yeah.
scheme, a religious Ponzi scheme, basically.
Yeah, exactly. Uh, Rev Girl said she'll come on your channel. Duncan,
Oh,
yeah,
cool.
I never understood how God was loving with the stories about him, like making a dad kill his baby. Yeah, like in
Yeah, that's a tough one.
Abraham. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I don't get that.
She said, "I'd love to go on a live with either or both of you." There you go. Awesome. Tampa Bay. Are you talking about Aaron? He hasn't taken you to the beach yet. White sand and beautiful ice cream turquoise water. Dreamy. Oh my God, I can't wait to go on the cruise so we can see Aruba.
I know. Well, that alludes to some of the stuff I put up on my channel, which it might. I can't. If I lived closer to the ocean, then I would be totally
Yeah.
doing videos from there, which I hope to do soon.
Yes, definitely do videos from there. We'll definitely be doing videos from the cruise, that's for sure.
Yeah, yeah.
Tampa Bay, man, Barbara, the best thing my mom taught me was that it's not my job to judge anyone. Load off my mind. Yeah, exactly.
Yep.
Right. Yep. And have my dad had this is interesting, honey. My
Oh,
dad had a dream after my very religious grandmother died, and in it she said, "We got it all wrong."
whoa. You know what? That's a lot of NDEers say that. They honestly do. They say, "Oh my God, we're totally just duped into believing that God was harsh and judgmental," and it's like totally not the case. So that's interesting.
Yeah.
It's weird too, and I shared this prior on a stream, but it was very bizarre. But since I've dug into this NDE thing, when my dad was
Hey
about to
Joe,
pass
thank you.
away, he said he was laying in his bed. He was about to pass, and he said, "I'm ready to take my toys and go home." And I looked at him and I was like, that piqued my curiosity. I'm like, oh, what are you talking about? What are your toys? He said, my relationships and memories. And now that makes perfect sense. Because at the time I didn't really get it. I'm like, oh, that's cool. That's really wild. Like, is that morphine talking? Or is that him talking? And I think he was getting ready to, he was ready and he wasn't complaining. He wasn't bitter or angry. He was just very relaxed and he'd accepted the situation. And, when he went to the other side later, years later, I'm like, wow, those words stuck with me. And I'm like, that's exactly the way it is. People come back and they're like, they're seeing their past relatives, they have their memories, and people even say, well, you can still do all the stuff you love doing here, but you're not limited by your body. The colors are more vibrant and amazing. The music is crazy. It's beautiful. And all communication is telepathic. There's so many aspects that I'll get into on my channel, so I don't get too crazy here.
No,
But I mean,
I need
amazing.
tissues because, I really loved your dad, and I remember you telling me that, and, that's so much him. If anyone I have, I've been, at a lot of, unfortunately, been through a lot of loss and a lot of deathbeds, as you'd say, some people would say, and your dad went so peacefully and he died the way he lived, with class and,
Yeah,
peaceful, and yeah, I could see him, doing that, and, yeah, I just loved your dad. I
yeah.
really did.
He was a good guy. You know?
Yeah, yeah. All right, guys. Beautiful music. Where do I sign up? Yeah, Joe. That's
Yeah,
amazing. Well, thank you everyone for
yeah.
spending time with us. This was amazing and great. And thank you, honey. And congratulations on your new channel, babe, in the other room.
Yep,
And
yeah. Thanks
if
for helping me get set up.
no problem. If you haven't subscribed to Duncan, what are you waiting for? It's like heaven over there. This is the dung heap over in this in this corner.
Yeah.
In this corner, we've got the Jezebel on the dung heap.
Yeah.
And in that corner, we've got, Duncan with his eagles and his near-death experiences and his just heavenly, talk.
Yeah.
So, in the other room, right? Thank you, Hippie Chick 69.
Yeah, thank
Great
you all for coming on
live.
and
Yeah.
listening to us. This has been fun.
Yeah,
I'm glad
thank you.
to call this a success for our first attempt.
Yes, thank you, Miss Sunrise Dawn, for all your hard work. Really appreciate it. Yes, like and subscribe. Please hit the please hit the like button and run on over to Duncan's at Free as an Eagle, just as it's typed there. Just remember the at sign when you look for it. And oh, thank you, Miss Sunrise Dawn. She's got the link right in the chat. And if you're watching on the replay, it usually takes about 24 hours for the chat to come up and load. So, usually because I have, less views than some of the bigger channels that load right away. So, all right, everybody, thank you so much. This was great. And I'll see you again tomorrow. And thanks, honey. We'll see you soon.
Yeah, thank you. See you in a
Bye.
few.
Bye.
Bye all.